We believe our history is a straight line, an arrow of progress, shot from a primitive, superstitious past, flying true towards our own, brilliant, technological present. We are a civilization of answers. We have mapped the human genome. We have smashed the atom. We have sent telescopes to the edge of time and unraveled the very fabric of the cosmos. We are the masters of information. We are the children of the Enlightenment, of Newton, of Faraday, of Volta. We are the ones who tamed lightning. This is the story we tell ourselves. But what if this story is wrong? What if the line of history is not a straight arrow, but a tangled, broken, branching tree? What if there are dead ends? What if there are forgotten branches? Heights that were reached and then abandoned and forgotten for millennia. There are ghosts in our archives. Objects that defy this comforting narrative. We have seen the Antikythera mechanism, a clockwork computer of impossible complexity, a machine that shouldn't exist for another 1,400 years. It is a phantom of a lost timeline, but it is not the only ghost. It is not, perhaps, even the most profound, because in the heart of our most modern, most secure fortress of knowledge, in the Voynich Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University, there sits an object that mocks everything we are. It is not a machine. It is a book. It is known as MS-408. It is not a grand, golden tome, bound in the skins of dragons. It is small, intimate, unassuming. About 9 by 6 inches. Roughly 240 pages of stiff, whispering vellum. Its cover is blank, pale, and soft to the touch. It has no title. It has no author. It has no date. It is the most mysterious book in the world. We call it the Voynich Manuscript. To open it is to fall down a rabbit hole. It is to confront two languages, two mysteries, running in parallel. The first is the text. The pages are filled, from margin to margin, with a script that does not exist. It is a language, or a code, that has never been seen in any other document, in any civilization, in any period of history. It is elegant. It flows, as if written by a practiced, confident hand. It has an alphabet of perhaps 20 or 30 distinct letters, or glyphs. Some are familiar, like Latin or Greek. Others are alien, like beautiful, complex insects, and this script forms words, and sentences, and paragraphs. It looks, for all the world, like a real, functional language. And then there are the illustrations. This is the second mystery. This is where the enigma becomes madness. The book is a manual, a scientific codex. It is divided into sections. But the subjects it illustrates are wrong. There is a vast herbal section, with hundreds of delicate, hand-painted drawings of plants. But these plants do not exist. They are botanical chimeras, the roots of one species, the leaves of another, the flowers of a third, all stitched together with an artist's calm, confident hand. They are plants from a world that is not our own. There is an astronomical section. Diagrams of the heavens, suns, moons, and stars. But the constellations are unrecognizable. The zodiacs are twisted. We see a bull, but it holds a crossbow. We see a man in boots, an archer with no bow, and then there is the balneological section. The baths. These are the pages that defy all sanity. They are vast, complex, multi-page foldouts, showing a labyrinth of green and blue tubes, pipes, and pools. And flowing through these tubes, bathing in these strange, organic pods, are dozens, perhaps hundreds, of small, naked women. They are not erotic. They are biological. They are pot-bellied, perhaps pregnant. They hold stars. They seem to be part of a bizarre, hydraulic, gynecological process. What is this? An alchemical allegory? A forgotten creation myth? A manual on aquatic midwifery from a lost civilization? The book is a perfect, hermetically sealed paradox. It looks like a book. It is structured like a book. It feels like a book. It has sections, chapters, illustrations, and a flowing, consistent script. But it communicates nothing. It is an artifact of pure, unbreachable silence. It is the ultimate black box. It is the book that nobody can read. and, perhaps, that nobody will ever read. Its mystery begins with its discovery. In 1912, a Polish-Lithuanian rare book dealer named Wilfred Voynich was on a buying trip in Italy. Voynich was not just a bookseller. He was a revolutionary, a radical, an ex-political prisoner who had escaped from a Siberian gulag. He was a man who lived and breathed secrets. He was invited to the Villa Mondragone, a Jesuit college near Rome. The Jesuits, in financial trouble, were quietly selling off some of their vast, hidden library in a dusty, forgotten trunk. He found it. Voynich, a man who had handled the rarest books in the world, knew instantly that this was his life's work. He recognized it as something that existed outside of known history. He bought it, along with 29 other manuscripts, and became its high priest. He became obsessed. His first, most logical assumption was that it was a hoax. A brilliant, modern forgery. But it didn't look like one. The vellum was ancient. The ink was faded. He spent the rest of his life, and his fortune, trying to unlock it, sending copies to the greatest minds he knew. They all failed. When Voynich died, the book became his namesake. And the theory that he faked it, that this brilliant revolutionary and con man had created the ultimate puzzle to secure his legacy, became the leading theory. It was a good theory. Plausible. It explained everything. And then, in 2009, it was completely and totally debunked. A team from the University of Arizona was given permission to take microscopic samples of the vellum. They used a 2-ton accelerator mass spectrometer, a carbon dating machine. The result was a bombshell. The vellum, the animal skin the book is made of, was harvested and prepared between the years 1404 and 1438. The ink, analyzed later by the Macron Research Institute, was confirmed to be consistent with materials and methods of the early 15th century. This changes everything. This is not a modern hoax. This is not a 19th century forgery. This is a genuine, 600-year-old, high medieval enigma. It was created at the same time as the Renaissance, at the time of Donatello and Jan van Eyck. So, where was it for its first 200 years? Silence. We have no record. The book's known history, its provenance, only picks up in Prague, around the year 1600. And it picks up in the most fantastic way imaginable. When Voynich bought the book, a letter was tucked inside. A letter, dated 1665 or 1666. It was from a man named Johannes Marcus Marci, a scientist in Prague, to the most famous intellectual in the world, Athanasius Kircher. Kircher, a Jesuit priest in Rome, was the master of 100 arts. He was the 17th century's smartest man alive. A polymath, a builder of strange machines, and, most famously, the man who claimed to have translated Egyptian hieroglyphs. He hadn't. His translations were complete, inspired fantasy. But he believed he had. If anyone could crack a secret book, it was Kircher. Marci's letter explains that he is sending this sphinx of a book to Kircher, as he is the only man who can solve it. And then, he tells him its history. The letter claims the book was once purchased by Emperor Rudolf II of Prague. This is a critical clue. Rudolf's court, in the late 1500s, was the world's center for the occult. It was a nest of mystics, alchemists, astronomers, and con artists. Rudolf himself was a depressive, brilliant, and deeply gullible man, obsessed with finding the philosopher's stone. The letter claims Rudolf paid 600 gold ducats for the book. An astronomical sum. Why? Because Rudolf was told the book was the lost work of the 13th century English friar, Roger Bacon. Roger Bacon. Dr. Mirabilis. A real-life wizard. A man who wrote about flying machines, and explosives, and telescopes, centuries before they were invented. A man who was imprisoned by the church for his suspected novelties. The letter then traces the book to the court of Rudolf. And to one man. Dr. John D. John D. The official court astrologer and magician to Queen Elizabeth I. A mathematical genius, and a man who believed he was in direct communication with angels, through his scryer, a convicted criminal and alchemist named Edward Kelly. This is not just a book. This is a relic. A cursed object. It has passed from Roger Bacon, the magician monk, to John Dee, the angel scryer, to Rudolph II, the occult-obsessed emperor, to Georg Baresch, a forgotten alchemist who first tried to solve it, to Marcy, to Kircher, the Jesuit polymath, and every single one of them failed. Kircher, the man who translated the hieroglyphs, could not make sense of a single word. He, too, was defeated. The book was filed away in the Jesuit college library, the Villa Mondragone, and it disappeared from history for 200 years until Wilfred Voynich opened that trunk. This chain of owners tells us something vital. For 400 years, this book has been owned by, or shown to, the most brilliant codebreakers and mystics in the world. And none of them could crack it. So, let's look inside. What is it? What is this world it depicts? Let's begin with the herbal section. This is the largest part of the book. Hundreds of pages, each with a single plant, and text wrapping around it. A classic medieval herbarium. But the plants, they are not real. Not a single one has ever been definitively identified. They are chimeras. They are Frankenstein plants. An artist has taken the roots of a ginger, the leaves of a lily, the flowers of a poppy, and painted them with the calm, scientific confidence of a botanical illustrator. They are fantasies, rendered as fact. This is our first great clue. Is this a lost botany? A guide to the plants of Eden? Or the New World? Impossible. The carbon dating is 1438. Columbus hasn't sailed. Or is it the botany of a dream? Then, we have the astronomical and astrological sections. Here we see diagrams. Suns with human faces. Moons. Stars. And zodiacs. We can clearly see the symbols for Pisces, the fish, Taurus, the bull, Aries, the ram. But they are wrong. The symbols are arranged in strange, non-standard ways. The center of the diagrams are not the Earth or the Sun, but sometimes they are the Moon. Sometimes they are pools of bathing women. The Sagittarius is a centaur, but he's a composite of a bull and a man with a crossbow. The labels for the months, written in a strange, corrupted Latin, are misspelled, or just off. This is not the astronomy of Ptolemy. It is not the astronomy of anyone, and this leads to the balneological section. The baths. This is the heart of the enigma. These are vast, complex, multi-page fold-outs, showing an intricate labyrinth of green and blue tubes, pipes, and pods. They look like a cross-section of a strange, organic factory, or a diagram of the human circulatory system, as drawn by a plumber, and flowing through these tubes, bathing in these strange, flower-like pods, are dozens, perhaps hundreds, of small, naked women. They are not erotic. They are biological. They are all identical. They are pot-bellied. Many seem to be pregnant. They hold stars. They seem to be part of a bizarre, hydraulic, gynecological process. What is this? An alchemical allegory for the great work? A forgotten creation myth? A manual on aquatic gynecology from a lost civilization? It is deeply, deeply strange. Then, a cosmological section. More diagrams. Circles within circles. Strange, fractal-like patterns. And the rosette's folio. A massive, 9-panel fold-out. A secret map. A map of what? A city? A spiritual realm? A microscopic view of a cell, or a snowflake? Or a map of a distant galaxy? Then, the pharmaceutical section. Pages of roots, leaves, and jars. Hundreds of small, labeled jars. Like an apothecary's manual. A recipe book for the chimeric plants we saw in the herbal section. And finally, the recipes section. The final 20 pages. Solid, dense Voynichese. No illustrations. Just text, marked by small, flower-like stars in the margin. Spells? Instructions? The key to the entire book? Or just an index? The enigma deepens. This is not just a cipher. It is an illustrated world. a coherent, self-contained universe that does not, and cannot, exist. The true mystery of the Voynich Manuscript is not what it says, but how it says it. The text itself is a cryptographic nightmare, a linguistic ghost. It is a perfect, self-consistent system that resists every known method of decryption. The first attempts at cracking the code were based on the assumption that it was a simple substitution cipher, where each Voynich character simply replaces a letter in a known language, like Latin or German. This is the simplest form of cryptography, and it was the first to fail. The frequency of the characters in the Voynich text does not match the frequency of letters in any known European language. For example, in English, E is the most common letter. In Voynich, the most common glyphs appear in patterns that are too regular, too repetitive, and too clustered. This led to the second theory, that it was a polyalphabetic cipher, like the beginner's cipher, where the substitution shifts based on a key. This is a much stronger form of encryption, but it also failed. The structure of the Voynich words is too short, too repetitive, and lacks the complex internal structure of a natural language encoded this way. Then came the linguistic analysis. Cryptographers and linguists, armed with computers, began to treat the text not as a code, but as a language. And this is where the paradox truly sets in. The text exhibits linguistic features that are undeniably real. It follows Zipf's law, a statistical observation that in any natural language, the frequency of any word is inversely proportional to its rank in the frequency table. The Voynich text follows this law perfectly. It has a consistent word length distribution. It has a measurable entropy, or randomness, that falls within the range of natural languages. It has a consistent morphology, meaning its words have identifiable prefixes, suffixes, and root words, just like English or Latin. But here is the contradiction. The words are too short. They are too repetitive. Certain words appear 2 or 3 times in a row, which is highly unusual in any natural language. And the text has an almost total lack of long words. In English, we have words like constitution, or anti-disestablishmentarianism. The Voynich text is dominated by short, 2 to 4 glyph words. It is a language that is simultaneously too structured to be random gibberish, and too simple to be a natural, complex human language. This has led to a third, more radical theory, that the text is a steganography. Not a cipher that hides the meaning of the words, but a method that hides the true words themselves. Perhaps the Voynich script is a meaningless covered text, and the real message is encoded in subtle variations in the handwriting, or in the length of the strokes, or in the color of the ink. This is a theory that is almost impossible to prove or disprove, as it relies on information that is too subtle for even the most advanced analysis. The most compelling, and perhaps most tragic, attempt at a solution came from William Friedman, the greatest American cryptographer of the 20th century. Friedman was the man who broke the Japanese Purple Code during World War II, a feat of intellectual genius that helped win the war. After the war, he turned his formidable mind to the Voynich Manuscript. He spent decades on it, forming a team of the best cryptographers in the world. They failed. Friedman, in his later years, was convinced the book was a hoax, a brilliant piece of gibberish designed to fool Emperor Rudolph II. The carbon dating proved him wrong, but the failure of the world's greatest code breaker remains a testament to the manuscript's impregnability. The sheer volume of failed attempts is a story in itself. For over a century, the manuscript has been a magnet for obsession. From the amateur enthusiast to the professional cryptologist, the book has consumed lives. In the 1970s, a man named John Stocco claimed to have solved it, asserting it was a series of phonetic codes based on Ukrainian. His translation was poetic, but ultimately unprovable and dismissed by experts. In the 1980s, Leo Leviter proposed that the text was a form of artificial language, a philosophical language created by a medieval polymath, similar to the attempts by John Wilkins in the 17th century to create a universal language. This theory accounts for the text's regularity and lack of complexity, but it still doesn't explain the illustrations. More recently, in 2017, a historian named Nicholas Gibbs claimed the manuscript was a plagiarized medieval medical manual, written in a form of abbreviated Latin. He claimed the text was a simple, common-sense herbal remedy guide. This theory was quickly and thoroughly debunked by medievalists, who pointed out that the abbreviations he identified were inconsistent and his translation made no sense. The most recent, and perhaps most intriguing, theory comes from the world of artificial intelligence. Researchers have used machine learning to analyze the text structure. In 2018, a team from the University of Alberta used an AI to identify the language as Hebrew, encoded using an alphabetic cipher. They claimed the first sentence, when decrypted, read, "She made recommendations to the priest, man of the house and me and people." While grammatically awkward, it was a start. However, the AI could only translate the first few lines before the results became nonsensical, suggesting the initial hit was a statistical fluke, or that the cipher changed throughout the book. The failure of AI is perhaps the most profound statement on the manuscript's nature. If the most powerful pattern recognition systems on Earth cannot find a coherent message, what does that say about the message itself? It forces us to return to the illustrations, the second language of the book. They are the key to the author's mind, a window into a world that is both familiar and utterly alien. Let's delve deeper into the herbal section. It is not enough to say the plants are chimeras. We must consider the purpose of the chimerism. Why would an artist, clearly skilled and patient, meticulously draw a plant that does not exist? One theory suggests the plants are not physical, but metaphorical. They are allegories for human conditions, or for alchemical processes. The roots, the leaves, the flowers, each part represents a different stage of the great work, the process of turning base metal into gold, or of achieving spiritual enlightenment. The plant is a mnemonic device, a way to remember a complex series of steps. Another theory is that the plants did exist, but are now extinct. The manuscript is a record of a lost biodiversity, a snapshot of the flora of a specific, isolated region in the early 15th century that has since been destroyed or changed. This would make the book an invaluable, if unreadable, document of natural history. A third, more chilling possibility, is that the plants are hallucinogenic. The book is a manual for a secret cult or society, detailing the preparation and use of psychoactive substances. The strange, non-existent forms are the visual representations of the drug-induced states, and the text is the instruction manual for the ritual. This would explain the secrecy, the bizarre imagery, and the book's association with occult figures like John Dee. The astronomical section also holds deeper secrets. The twisted zodiacs are not merely mistakes. They are recalibrations. The medieval world was obsessed with astrology, and the alignment of the heavens was constantly being re-evaluated. The Voynich Manuscript may contain a unique, lost system of astrology, perhaps one that incorporates a different calendar or a different understanding of the celestial spheres. The women holding stars in the balneological section might be a representation of the constellations themselves, personified in a way unique to the author's cosmology. The Sagittarius with a crossbow, not a bow, is a deliberate choice, a symbolic shift that holds a meaning we have lost. But the most disturbing and compelling section remains the balneological or biological section. The bathing women are not just women. They are a system. The green and blue tubes are not just pipes. They are a network. The prevailing theory among some historians of science is that this section is a treatise on gynecology and reproduction. The pot-bellied women are pregnant. The pools are wombs or birthing baths. The intricate network of tubes represents the female reproductive system, or perhaps a system for collecting and processing bodily fluids, which was a central part of medieval medicine. The manuscript, in this light, becomes a radical, highly visual, and deeply private medical text, perhaps intended only for a select group of female practitioners or a single, wealthy patron. The sheer scale of the fold-outs in this section suggests the author considered this the most important part of the book. It is a massive, detailed diagram of a process, a cycle, a system of life. It is the closest the manuscript comes to a scientific diagram, but a science we do not recognize. The final sections, the cosmological rosettes and the pharmaceutical jars, serve as a synthesis. The rosettes, the 9-panel fold-out, is a map of the universe as understood by the author. It is a fractal, self-similar structure, suggesting a deep connection between the macrocosm, the universe, and the microcosm, the human body, the plant. The jars in the pharmaceutical section are the practical application of this cosmology. They contain the remedies, the elixirs, the preparations derived from the chimeric plants, all designed to interact with the body as described in the balneological section, and all governed by the celestial mechanics of the astronomical section. The Voynich Manuscript, therefore, is not a collection of random parts. It is a unified theory of everything from a lost mind. It is a complete, self-referential worldview, a unique botany, a unique astronomy, a unique biology, and a unique language to describe it all. The question of the author remains the ultimate, tantalizing puzzle. If it is not Roger Bacon, who is it? The carbon dating points to the early 15th century, a time of intellectual ferment in northern Italy and Central Europe. The most credible theory for the author is a northern Italian physician or alchemist. The style of the illustrations, particularly the castles and fortifications drawn in the cosmological section, closely resembles those found in northern Italy during that period. The script itself has been compared to the humanistic script that was emerging in Renaissance Italy. One fascinating candidate is Antonio Averlino, known as Filarete, a 15th-century architect and polymath. Filarete was known for his eccentric ideas, including the design of a perfect, utopian city called Sforzenda. The intricate, mechanical nature of the balneological diagrams has a strong resonance with the mind of an architect and engineer like Filarete, who was obsessed with complex, functional systems. Another possibility is that the book is the work of a collective, a secret society, perhaps, or a group of scholars who wished to create a document that was both a repository of their knowledge and a test of their initiates. The consistency of the script, however, argues against this. Paleographers, experts in ancient handwriting, have concluded that the entire manuscript was written by a single, highly practiced hand. This was not a draft. It was a final copy, written with speed and confidence. The most romantic, and perhaps most enduring, theory is that the author was a woman. The intense focus on gynecology, the detailed and non-erotic depiction of the female body, and the herbal remedies all point to the world of medieval female healers and midwives, who often operated outside the male-dominated medical establishment. Creating a secret language would have been a necessary act of self-preservation, a way to protect dangerous or heretical knowledge from the church. The book, in this view, is a feminine codex, a secret history of women's knowledge. The Voynich Manuscript is a mirror. Every attempt to solve it reveals more about the solver than about the book. Cryptographers see a code. Linguists see a language. Botanists see a plant. Historians see a hoax. And in the end, all we see is our own reflection, staring back from the polished surface of an unreadable page. It is a testament to the fact that the past is not a straight line. It is a labyrinth. And somewhere, in the forgotten corners of that labyrinth, a 600-year-old book sits in a library, whispering a secret that we are still not ready to hear. The silence is the message. The unreadability is the point. The Voynich Manuscript is the ultimate proof that there are things we have forgotten, things we have lost, and things that exist outside the comfortable narrative of our own progress. It is the ghost in the machine of history, and it is still waiting for its voice to be heard. Let us consider the final, most unsettling possibility, the hoax theory, re-examined. While the carbon dating proves the vellum is from the 15th century, it does not prove the text is. It is possible that a 16th century forger, perhaps even Edward Kelly himself, acquired a blank, unused medieval manuscript. Vellum was expensive and often stored for decades, and filled it with his own creation to sell to the gullible Emperor Rudolph II. If it is a hoax, it is the most brilliant, sophisticated, and enduring hoax in history. The forger would have had to 1. Invent a completely new, consistent alphabet. 2. Invent a language that follows all the statistical laws of a natural language, Zipf's law, etc., but is structurally too simple to be one. 3. Create hundreds of illustrations of non-existent plants and bizarre astronomical systems with a consistent, scientific-looking style. 4. Maintain the consistency of the script over hundreds of pages, suggesting a high level of dedication and practice. The sheer effort required for such a forgery would be monumental, perhaps more difficult than writing a genuine, complex treatise. Why go to such lengths? The answer lies in the price. 600 gold ducats. The forger would have been paid a king's ransom for a book that was, essentially, a piece of performance art. The theory of the glosses also offers a fascinating angle. In the margins of the manuscript, there are a few words written in a recognizable script, usually Latin or German. These are called glosses. They are not part of the main text, but they are crucial. They appear to be later additions, perhaps by one of the book's early owners, trying to make sense of the illustrations. For example, near one of the herbal drawings, a word that looks like Taurus is written. This suggests the owner was trying to connect the plant to the astrological sign of Taurus. These glosses are the only known attempts by a contemporary mind to bridge the gap between the Voynich world and our own. They are the desperate scribbles of a frustrated reader, a historical record of the book's unreadability. The most recent and compelling linguistic analysis focuses on the structure of the words. A study published in PLOS I in 2013 used a statistical method called enigma analysis to compare the Voynich text to thousands of known languages. The result was startling. The Voynich text is most similar in structure to East Asian languages, specifically Vietnamese and Cantonese, where words are often short and monosyllabic, and where repetition is common. This does not mean the book is written in Vietnamese. It means the structure of the language is similar. This could point to a linguistic experiment, where a European scholar, perhaps inspired by early reports of Asian languages, attempted to create a new, simplified language based on those structural principles. This ties back to the idea of a philosophical language, and places the manuscript at the cutting edge of 15th century linguistic thought. The enduring power of the Voynich manuscript is its ability to humble us. It is a challenge to the very foundation of our knowledge systems. We pride ourselves on our ability to decode, to analyze, to categorize. The Voynich manuscript is the ultimate counterexample. It is a piece of data that refuses to be processed. It is a signal that cannot be heard. It is a reminder that the past is not a simple story of ascent. It is a complex, multi-layered tapestry, with threads that lead to nowhere, and patterns that defy interpretation. The book is a monument to the limits of human understanding, a 600-year-old question mark bound in vellum, and as long as it remains unread, it will continue to whisper its silent, profound truth, that the greatest mysteries are not those that are solved, but those that endure. The Voynich manuscript is not a failure of cryptography. It is a triumph of mystery. It is the book that keeps its own counsel, and in its silence, it speaks volumes about the limits of our modern, brilliant, technological present. The book is a final, beautiful paradox. It is a perfect, self-contained universe, a complete worldview, written in a language that is statistically real but semantically empty. It is a manual for a science that never existed, a guide to plants that never grew, and a map of a cosmos that only one person ever saw. And that person, the author, remains the ultimate, unreadable cipher. They left behind a masterpiece of sustained, coherent, and utterly impenetrable thought. They created a ghost in the machine of history, and that ghost is still waiting for its voice to be heard. The final pages of the manuscript, the dense, unillustrated recipes section, are the last, desperate hope. If the rest of the book is a complex, multi-layered cipher, perhaps the final pages are the key. They are the most text-heavy, the most concentrated block of Voynichese. They are the author's final statement. Could they be a simple index? A list of ingredients? Or could they be the Rosetta Stone of the Voynich world, a short, simple passage that, if translated, would unlock the entire, 400-page mystery? The pursuit continues. Every year, new theories emerge, new codebreakers try their hand, and new technologies are brought to bear. The manuscript is now digitized, analyzed by AI, and studied by a global community of enthusiasts and academics. It is the ultimate open-source mystery, but the book remains silent, and perhaps, that is the way it should be. The Voynich manuscript is not a problem to be solved. It is a meditation on the nature of knowledge, secrecy, and the vast, unknowable depths of the human mind. It is a reminder that even in our age of total information, there are still secrets that can be kept, and mysteries that can endure. It is the book that mocks our certainty. It is the book that proves the arrow of progress is not straight. It is the book that whispers from the 15th century, telling us that we are not the masters of information. We are merely the inheritors of a beautiful, terrifying, and unreadable past. The book is closed. The secret is safe. and the ghost remained. Let us delve deeper into the very fabric of the manuscript, the physical object itself. The vellum, the skin of a calf, was a precious commodity in the 15th century. The creation of a 240-page book required a significant herd of animals. This was not a casual undertaking. The cost of the materials alone suggests a wealthy patron, or an author of considerable means. The vellum is of high quality, prepared with care, and has survived 6 centuries with remarkable resilience. This physical fact argues against the idea of a mad, isolated author. This was a project with resources. The ink, too, tells a story. Analysis by the Macron Research Institute in Chicago revealed that the ink is a common type of iron gall ink, consistent with the period. It was made from iron sulfate, gall nuts, growths on oak trees, and a binder like gum arabic. The colors used in the illustrations are also typical of the era, derived from minerals and plants. There is nothing exotic about the materials. The magic, the mystery, is not in the what, but in the how. The author used the most common, everyday materials of their time to create something utterly alien. This leads to a crucial point: the speed and confidence of the author. Paleographic analysis, the study of old handwriting, has concluded that the script was written fluently, without hesitation. The author was not slowly, carefully encrypting a text. They were writing in a language they knew, or in a system they had completely internalized. There are very few corrections or erasures. The text flows. This is the hand of a practiced scribe, not a struggling cryptographer. This fact makes the hoax theory, particularly one involving a complex, real-time encryption, less likely. It supports the idea of a genuine, if unknown, language, or a highly practiced, pre-memorized system of gibberish. The structure of the book itself, the codicology, offers further clues. The pages are arranged in quires, or gatherings of folded sheets. The way these quires are assembled can reveal the book's history. Analysis has shown that the quires were numbered, and some pages may be missing. This suggests the book was even larger than it is today. What secrets did those lost pages hold? Were they the key to the cipher, or simply more of the same beautiful, unreadable mystery? The illustrations, upon closer inspection, reveal a fascinating level of detail. The artist, who was almost certainly the same person as the scribe, used a limited palette, but with great skill. The lines are fine and precise, the colors are applied evenly. There is a sense of calm, deliberate artistry. This was not the work of a madman, scribbling in a frenzy. This was the work of a patient, methodical, and highly skilled individual. The illustrations are not crude doodles. They are formal, scientific-style drawings, following the conventions of medieval herbals and astronomical diagrams, but depicting a world that is entirely fictional. Let's reconsider the provenance, the chain of ownership. The gap between the book's creation, c. 1404 to 1438, and its appearance in the court of Rudolph II, c. 1600, is a 160-year black hole. Where was it? Who owned it? This is where speculation runs wild. Was it hidden in a monastery library? Passed down through a secret society? Did it travel to the New World and back? The silence of these 2 centuries is as profound as the silence of the text itself. The connection to John Dee is particularly tantalizing. Dee was a man who stood on the threshold between the medieval and modern worlds. He was a brilliant mathematician who helped reform the English calendar, and a mystic who believed he could speak to angels through a crystal ball. He owned one of the largest libraries in England. He was also deeply in debt. The theory that Dee and his associate, the convicted forger Edward Kelly, created the manuscript to sell to Rudolph is a powerful one. Kelly was a known alchemist and charlatan. The idea that he could have faked a mystical book is entirely plausible. However, the sheer complexity and internal consistency of the Voynich Manuscript seem beyond the capabilities of even a brilliant con man. It is one thing to fake a few pages of angelic script. It is another to create a 240-page, internally consistent, illustrated world. The role of Athanasius Kircher is also significant. Kircher was the 17th century's answer to Google. He was a polymath who wrote about everything from geology to music to Egyptology. He was also a man of immense, and often misplaced, confidence. His translation of the hieroglyphs was a complete fantasy, based on the mistaken belief that they were purely symbolic, not phonetic. The fact that even Kircher, a man who was never afraid to invent an answer when he didn't have one, was stumped by the Voynich Manuscript is a powerful testament to its difficulty. He didn't even try to fake a translation. He was simply defeated. The modern era of Voynich studies began with William Friedman. His failure to crack the code is, in many ways, the most important event in the manuscript's recent history. Friedman's team at the National Security Agency, NSA, had access to the most advanced cryptographic techniques of the day. They had computers. They had a deep understanding of ciphers. And they failed. This failure shifted the focus of research away from simple ciphers and towards more exotic explanations, a lost language, a complex hoax, or something else entirely. The rise of the Internet has created a global community of Voynich researchers. Amateurs and academics alike can now access high-resolution scans of the manuscript and share their theories in real time. This has led to an explosion of ideas, some brilliant, some bizarre. The manuscript has become a kind of cryptographic Mount Everest, a challenge that draws in the boldest and most obsessive minds. Let's explore some of the more fringe theories, as they reveal the psychological pull of the manuscript. Some have suggested the book is the work of aliens, a message from another world left for humanity to find. Others believe it is a prophecy, a book that foretells the future, if only we could read it. Still others claim it is a magical grimoire, a book of spells that could unleash powerful forces if read aloud. These theories, while unprovable, speak to the deep human need to find meaning in the unknown. The manuscript is a blank canvas onto which we project our own hopes, fears, and fantasies. The theory of a lost civilization is also compelling. Could the manuscript be the last surviving relic of a culture that was wiped out by plague, war, or natural disaster? A 15th century Atlantis? This would explain the unique language, botany, and astronomy. The book would be a window into a world that has vanished without a trace. It is a romantic and tragic idea, but one that lacks any supporting evidence. The most plausible theories remain grounded in the historical context of the 15th century. The idea of a medical or alchemical treatise is still the most widely accepted. The 15th century was a time of great intellectual ferment, but also a time of great danger. The line between science and heresy was thin. An author who was exploring new, potentially dangerous ideas would have had every reason to conceal their work in a cipher. The book could be a record of experiments, of theories, of knowledge that could have gotten its author burned at the stake. Consider the psychology of the author. What kind of mind creates such a work? It is a mind that is both systematic and imaginative. It is a mind that is obsessed with detail, with classification, with building a complete, self-contained world. It is the mind of a taxonomist, an encyclopedist, a world builder. This is the same impulse that drives modern fantasy authors like J.R.R. Tolkien, who also invented languages and mythologies for his fictional world. Could the Voynich Manuscript be a work of proto-science fiction? A 15th century fantasy novel, complete with illustrations? This theory is surprisingly compelling. It explains the non-existent plants and animals. It explains the bizarre cosmology. It explains the need for a unique language. The book would not be a record of the real world, but a record of an imaginary one. It would be a work of art, not of science, and it would be a work of art so complete, so internally consistent, that it has fooled generations of scholars into believing it is real. If the Voynich Manuscript is a work of fiction, it is the most successful work of fiction ever created. It has created a mystery that has lasted for 600 years, and that continues to fascinate and inspire. It is a story that has no beginning, no middle, and no end, because the story is the book itself. The final, and perhaps most profound, mystery is the purpose. Why was it made? If it is a cipher, what is the message? If it is a hoax, what was the motive? If it is a work of art, what was the artist trying to say? We may never know. The author, whoever they were, has succeeded in creating a perfect, hermetically sealed object. It is a message in a bottle, thrown into the ocean of time, and the message is written in a language that only the sender could understand. The book is a monument to the power of the individual human mind. In an age before computers, before the internet, before the global village, a single person sat down and created a universe. They created a language, a science, a mythology, and they did it with such skill, such dedication, and such genius, that they have left us a puzzle that may never be solved. The Voynich Manuscript is not just a book. It is a question. And the question is this: what are the limits of human imagination? The answer, it seems, is that there are no limits. The book is a testament to the infinite, creative, and often inscrutable power of the human mind. It is a work of art that has become a scientific mystery, a historical artifact that has become a cultural icon. It is the book that nobody can read, and the story that will never end. As we stand in the 21st century, with all our technology and all our knowledge, the little book from the 15th century continues to mock us. It is a reminder that we are not as smart as we think we are. It is a lesson in humility. It is a whisper from a lost world, a world where magic and science were one, where the universe was a book to be read, and where a single, anonymous author could create a mystery that would outlive empires. The quest for the solution will continue. New technologies will be developed. New theories will be proposed. But it is possible, even likely, that the Voynich Manuscript will never be fully understood. And perhaps that is its true legacy. It is a permanent, unsolvable mystery, a source of endless fascination and wonder. It is a work of art that is all the more beautiful because it is silent. It is the ultimate enigma, the perfect secret, the book that will forever remain unread. The pursuit of the Voynich solution has become a field of study in itself, known as Voynichology. It is a discipline born of frustration and obsession, a testament to the manuscript's enduring power. The community is diverse, ranging from professional cryptographers and linguists to amateur historians and enthusiasts. This collective effort, while yet to yield a definitive translation, has produced a wealth of statistical and structural analysis that deepens the mystery rather than solving it. One of the most compelling structural observations is the curious regularity of the text. Unlike natural languages, where words are often repeated for emphasis or grammatical necessity, the Voynich text exhibits a pattern of repetition that is almost mechanical. Certain words or phrases appear at the beginning of paragraphs, or at the end of lines, with a frequency that suggests a highly structured, almost algorithmic, method of composition. This has led some to believe the text is a form of plain text written in a constructed language, designed to be easy to write and read, but impossible to decipher without the key to its unique grammar and vocabulary. The concept of a steganographic cipher continues to haunt researchers. If the text is a cover, what is the hidden message? Some theories suggest the message is hidden in the length of the words, or the number of strokes in a character, or even the color of the ink, which may have faded differently over time. This is a difficult theory to test, as it requires a level of precision in the original writing that is hard to verify 600 years later. However, the idea that the author went to such lengths to hide a message speaks to the profound importance the message must have held. The linguistic experiment theory is gaining traction among modern linguists. The 15th century was a time when scholars were rediscovering classical texts and beginning to think critically about the nature of language itself. The Voynich Manuscript could be the result of a scholar attempting to create a perfect language, a language free from the irregularities and ambiguities of natural languages like Latin or German. If this is the case, the text is not a cipher to be broken, but a philosophical treatise on the nature of communication. The illustrations would then serve as the definitions for the concepts expressed in the new language. Let's return to the balneological section and the bathing women. Beyond the gynecological and alchemical interpretations, a more spiritual reading is possible. The women, often shown in groups, connected by the elaborate plumbing, could represent souls or spiritual states. The pools and tubes could be a metaphor for the purification process or the journey of the soul through different stages of enlightenment. The stars they hold could be celestial guides, or symbols of their divine nature. This interpretation aligns with the occult and mystical interests of the book's later owners, such as Rudolph II and John D. The rosette's folio, the massive fold-out, is perhaps the most visually stunning and frustrating part of the manuscript. It is a map, but a map of what? The most recent, and highly debated theory suggests it is a map of a volcanic eruption or a geological event. The circular, concentric patterns could represent the blast radius or the flow of lava. This would place the author in a specific geographical location and time, but the evidence is circumstantial. More commonly, it is interpreted as a cosmological diagram, a representation of the universe, or perhaps a microscopic view of a cell or an organism, a stunningly prescient vision of a world unseen by the naked eye. The final, and most poignant, aspect of the Voynich Manuscript is its humanity. Despite all the theories of ciphers, hoaxes, and aliens, the book was created by a single human being, with a pen and ink on vellum. It is a record of a mind, a vision, a worldview that was so unique, so personal, that it has remained impenetrable for centuries. The author, in their anonymity, has achieved a form of immortality. Their work continues to challenge, to inspire, and to remind us that the greatest mysteries are often found not in the stars, but in the depths of the human imagination. The Voynich Manuscript is a monument to the unread, a beautiful, silent testament to the secrets we keep, and the worlds we create. It is the ultimate secret. It is the book that will never tell its story. The book's profound silence is its loudest statement. It is a mirror reflecting the limits of our own knowledge, a constant, tangible reminder that history is not a closed book, but an endless series of questions. The quest for its meaning is the human condition distilled, the relentless, often futile, search for order in chaos, for a key to unlock the ultimate, self-contained mystery. And so, the manuscript rests, a perfect, enduring enigma, forever challenging the arrogance of our modern certainty. It is the unreadable truth,